إن شاء الله راجعين بإذن الله راجعين إن شاء الله راجعين بإذن الله.
First of all, seeing any family being evicted from their home is absolutely gut-wrenching, so you have to understand that the video you're watching is going to make you feel incredibly emotional. Now, we need to take these human emotions and put them aside and talk legality. This family was legally evicted through Israeli courts.
Legality does not equal morality, bitch. Mind you, again, slavery was legal, Holocaust was legal. Let's dig more into this case, shall we? This is in East Jerusalem, in an area called Sidwan. Israeli occupiers seized 13 Palestinian apartments in occupied East Jerusalem. This is March of 2026, so pretty recent. Read the top there. And then it says, Israeli police escorted occupiers from the Aret Kohanim organization onto the Batan al-Hawa area of Siloam, where two families, of course, had their apartments. And it began with the eviction of two families from the apartments, followed by Israeli enforcement team, clear the apartments and hand them over to civil organizations claims that the land belongs to Jews of Yemeni origin. The claims are based on alleged ownership of Jews of Yemeni origin dating back to 1881, with the land divided into 6 plots that the Israeli courts have ruled belong to occupiers. Basically, so they didn't finish the order, tried to file an appeal, because they purchased the land back in 1963. But the court, so it's like the families that purchased the land back in 1963 holds documents proving the ownership, but courts rejected the claim, arguing that the sale was conducted by a party without legal authority over land classified as belonging to Yemeni Jews. And based on the classification, how they figured that out, we don't get to know. We don't know how they determined that was. It just is. Apparently, it just is. Because what she doesn't want to mention is that Israel basically literally made theft of Palestinian land legal, literally legalized theft. Does that sound more to you?
Based on Israeli laws, yes, it is incredibly unfortunate that an entire family is being evicted from their home. But the reality is, this was done fully legally in Israel. Don't let the sadness of what this looks like manipulate you into believing that what's happening is wrong.
I mean, the fact that theft is legal is automatically wrong. This is an old law they've had for a long time too. They don't want you to know about how Israel applies the Absentee Property Law to confiscate Palestinian property in Jerusalem. As early as March 1948, Israel established a committee for abandoned Arab property and began working on transferring such properties to Jewish use. But by 1950, they had a full legal mechanism prepared and passed in the form of the Absentee Property Law, which enabled Israel to appropriate thousands of Palestinian movable and immovable property, including land, homes, assets, and businesses, and more, and what became West Jerusalem and the rest of the 48 territories. And then they were, most people were properties belonged to Palestinians who were expelled or fled safety during the 1948 war, the Nakba, taking refuge in East Jerusalem, West Bank, or elsewhere. So basically how this law worked is fucked. So basically confiscated properties were transferred over to the newly created Israeli custodian of absentee property appointed by the Minister of Finance, who along with Development Authority subsequently transferred them to the ownership of the state in order to move Jewish Israelis in them, Jewish Israeli settlers in them. So basically, fuck off if you're Palestinian, you're not getting your property back, basically. So that goes against the Resolution 914, saying basically that either Palestinians were able to return to their homes or be compensated for property lost. Neither of those things were done. Retroactive and sweeping law, though passed in 1950, the law worked retroactively, defining absentee as anyone who left their property as of November 29th of 1947. I believe that was the day exactly that the UN partition plan was passed. It was any of the following. So a national citizen of Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Transjordan, located in any part of Palestine outside of the area of Israel, and then a Palestinian citizen under the the laws of the British mandate, even if their status is clear and determined, left to residents from outside Palestine before September 1948, part of Palestine that was held by forces which sought to prevent the establishment of the state or persons in any of these. So basically, and the vast is applied from that date until the day on which the state of emergency shall cease to exist, which it never has for them. Every day is just, it's to this day, Israel has not removed the state of emergency. Shocker. And so it's simply rendering millions of exiled Palestinians considered absentees, more with the term absentee notwithstanding the law's formulation and could mean Palestinians took refuge in the next village or in relatives' village by a myriad of impossible situations that were automatically rendered into absentees. So basically, they can enable anyone that's seen be like, hey, we're taking your property. Even if Palestinians exiled in 48 could find a way to return the properties, even if Palestinians exiled in 1948 who were declared absentees, so they were just declared absentees, could find a way to return the properties, even if they remained within the country, they would not claim them. Israel covered its bases, banning exiled Palestinians the right of return and ensuring that none could claim the properties due to status of absentees, and those who remained absentees in the country were classified as present absentees. The fuck? This status passed on to one's male children, meaning that future generations had no hope of reclaiming confiscated property. Like, fuck Israel every day, bro. So even your children can't, and even though your children will inherit, maybe like through UNRWA, through their father, they can inherit like refugee status, they won't get their property back, or reparations for the property even more. Like, even if you had like left your property in during 1968 or 1967 war, that could be considered vacant, or like, they just basically they've made amendments to those laws as well. I want to see what this falls under. What's happening to these families now is under this 1970 edition of like, so it would you status, but then also, however, Palestinians who lived outside the new Israeli imposed municipal borders of city and owned properties within the cities were still deemed absentees. Properties handed over to the custodian of the authority. Government enabled transfer of ownership of properties through settler organizations through different Israeli authorities, such as the Development Authority. Amendments believe that Jewish properties in East Jerusalem were previously owned by Jordanian custodian enemy property were to be transferred over to the Ministry of Justice, required to release those to their Jewish owners and heirs. Also known as the custodian and owners are not managed or untraceable. Amended law did not make some provisions for Palestinians who lost properties in 1948. Yeah, so basically these settler groups utilize these laws in order to resettle the Jews in Palestinian neighborhoods based on justification they were owned by Jews before 1948. They're doing this even though like the Palestinian people can't even go back to their homes that they had in occupied Palestine proper. Basically, it's all coordinated with the government, settler organizations, and like the IDF. So basically, the tenets of the Islam place process about expelling Palestinians from their homes, placing them with Jewish settlers has been one of the coordination between. So two private organizations should regularly fabricate evidence in order to make settlers the rightful amateurs of pre-1948 settlements. According to Peace Now, so basically, this is deeded with these apartments in Sidwan. Therefore, passed into the JNF, and then passed on to settlers. Then Muslims discovered that their homes had been sold to the state upon receiving lawsuits, or like, so basically, you come home one day and they're like, okay, well, your home is actually owned by Yemeni Jews or Yemeni or like Moroccan Jews, so now you have to move per Israeli law, even though you own documents. You own documents and have the right to live like it's part of Palestinian territory. So these laws are immoral and they suck, and that is that. Fuck Israel, like all day, every day, bro.